Let's talk about negative behavior, what you can do to curb it from happening in your life continuously and live a peaceful existence. And as we go through this first Mercury retrograde in the decade of 2020 to 2030, it's important to know how to handle this stuff. Negative behavior. It's defined differently by everyone. How I would define negative behavior will change in comparison to what you say. It's the undesirable behavior. This is what we're talking about. The undesirable things that we would rather not have to deal with, that we would rather replace if we could with some other behavior. And the thing is this, we're responsible for all the results that end up in our lives. Even if it's coming from someone else, we are cognizant of what's happening and consciously taking the decision to allow these things to be in our life. So you might see where I'm getting at. It's the idea of behavior continues so long as we invest in it. So if you choose to give attention to a specific behavior that's happening that is undesirable, well, guess what's happening right there? It's getting reinforced, and so it's going to continue. The only time behavior will change is when there is a competing alternative behavior that's being recognized. You want to recognize and reinforce the positive behaviors that exist that will benefit you in your life and your trajectory where it's going. I am going to close a window here because I hear cats in the middle of procreation, and it is very loud. And that is one of those things that we hear here in Mexico. Well, at least I'm saying I do. And I would rather not listen to that because it's probably a painful experience that's happening for the female cat, in all honesty. After I've heard about it's like a barbed experience. It's kind of like the negative behavior. How do you reduce that from happening? The reason why I'm talking about it tonight, and I'm going to allow myself to vent a little bit at the expense of reinforcing behavior that shouldn't be reinforced, it's because it largely affects my relationship with my children. I have had issues with accessing my children since the day that they were born. Let's just say that. My kids, they're going to be 5 and 7 in April, and I have yet to have an hour alone with either of them in their entire lives. This gives you an idea of what I've allowed to happen, and it also paints a picture of the mother of my children, who is the most challenging individual in this world that I know in terms of her behavior patterns and how to curb them. So what it teaches me is how to get creative. And sometimes the most creative solution is to just simply just remove attention. I can't tell you how effective, it's the most effective behavioral technique is to just remove attention when there's negative behavior. It works with me. If someone wants me to change my behavior or to simply give up, just remove attention, and I learn very fast. The unfortunate thing is that I'm placed in a situation, if you can imagine, I can't see my kids unless I reinforce the negative behavior of my ex-wife. So this is a challenging scenario right here. I can't resolve the situation. I can't see my kids unless I reinforce the negative behavior of my ex-wife. So here's where it comes back to 2 years of therapy, in which I've spoken with multiple therapists, male and female, and they all unanimously come back to say, listen, if you're being abused, if you are being subjected to someone who's doing torturous things, and you are, by your ex-wife right now, you need to remove attention. And so my question naturally is, well, what about my kids? They need to see me. And the response was, at what expense? What kind of lesson an example are you giving by allowing yourself to be subjected to abuse? What kind of message are you sending to your children? And I really had to think about that. I thought to myself, wow, if I allow this to happen, then it's an indication I really don't care about myself. That I care so little about myself and preserving who I am for the sake of just simply seeing my children. And that's not fair to them, nor is it fair to me. So the only way to change it is by removing the attention that the mother of my children gets, while at the same time, I have to offer love in other ways. Believe it or not, this recording is a way of saying to my children, I tried. Beyond that, I continue to try. Beyond that, I'm living in Mexico to continue to try. Beyond that, I am telling you right now that every single day I think of you and offer love and want only to be reunited with you, but for it not to be contingent upon someone abusing me in order to have access. Because it has a psychological effect that is extremely damaging over time. This is not going to be understood by the person who's doing it. And it is a simple expression of how much this person is suffering. You have to understand that in order for someone to do this type of thing and hold children as a carrot and stick in front of a father is to be extremely sick and extremely disturbed, but beyond anything that I've said so far, to be suffering to an absolute extreme. So the only thing that can be done at this moment is to offer light and let it go. And do not pay attention to the behavior. My children, everyone tells me these are the key years to have with my kids. Well, you know what? The mother of my kids is making it so that it's the most difficult time of my life to have access to them. That just happens to be the hand that I'm being served. Before, I couldn't get them to come stateside, so I had to move to Mexico. Now that I'm in Mexico, it's just as challenging. If I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, I don't get access. Even when I do that, it gets pushed and pushed and pushed. And, I just can't help this person other than removing attention entirely. Because it affects me, my constitution, myself, and my relationship with my children. I have to maintain that it's sacrosanct and not to be interfered with. The only way that it can go right now and not be interfered with is by me removing my attention and instead focusing on telling the world, the ones that are listening right now, which I pray and hope will eventually be my children, that they understand the daily process that it has been, that I am anything but a father that is absent, that every single day I write on behalf of them, that I just published a book for them, that I offer them love, and even when the rumors are spread and stories are made up about who I am, they will know that the only experiences they've had with me have been loving. The only experiences that happen when we're together are of divine play, the Leela, that was shown to me by Satya Sai Baba, who I spoke about last night. The divine play that is innocent and full of love and completely restorative and reparative of heart. That is who I am to them. That formula doesn't work with some people. Do you understand? It brings out the worst in some. So you have to pick and choose who you will be a child with. And you also have to pick and choose who you will be a warrior with. And you have to pick and choose who you will be very careful with. Every single act is like a chess game. Different pieces in play, different moves. You have to be quick on your feet. You have to be careful to be sure not to lose your king. And that's what this is about. it unfortunately has turned into a toxic game that I choose not to play. I've knocked my pieces over. I've said, great, it's all yours. My kids will eventually understand. This is what my therapists have told me. So if you're a parent that's going through similar situations right now, please comment on this. I think it's an important topic. Or if you're listening now, respond to live chat. It's an important topic. Negative behavior is simply another form of suffering. And this form of suffering, unfortunately, has been incapacitated in terms of its ability to communicate wisely and mindfully. There is no force there at play. It is simply projection for the sake of hurting another person. And it's a reflection of a childlike self that never learned the right tools, that was never handed the skills to say, this is what, or to understand this is what I need to be doing in order to have a fulfilling, good relationship with the father of my children. And so what the father of her children needs to do, i.e. me, is teach. Teach through the absence of attention. Teach by saying, there's only so far I will go in order to retain my own dignity for the sake of showing the image of who I really am to my children, that is more important, in fact, than being present day in and day out. That if I have only a few moments with them per week, that those moments are going to be perfect in the environment in which I control what is happening. And if I cannot achieve that because I'm fighting against a brick wall, then so be it. I have patience. I can wait this out. I was already planning on waiting out 18 years in the States. And I thought to myself, well, let's see how I can fare again in Mexico against all odds. And here I am. And I've got a different trajectory this time. It's an interesting one, the way it's moving now. But it's also sad at the same time to receive messages that are statements about what I'm doing and who I am that are completely inaccurate, and they come from no fundamental source. It's just speculation made into some perceived reality that I have nothing to do with. And I think to myself, this concerns me because I'm concerned about my children being exposed to this. What can you do? You can't stop gossip, folks. You can't stop it. You can't expect people to stop. You can't expect people to change. You can't expect people to make up stories about who you are. You can't expect people to listen to you and believe what you're saying more so than the story in their mind, because this is the sickness that exists in social media. It is reinforcing that your story of someone else is more important than asking them about their own story. I'm going to say that again because it's important. Social media and your immediate gratification through technology reinforces the fact that your opinion and story of others is more important than listening to them and inquiring and asking them what is their story with curiosity, mindfulness, and love. Your story is more important than that. And we need to change this, folks, or we're not going to make it. And most certainly our kids aren't going to make it. Start inquiring and asking questions about the other. Offer them at least the opportunity to tell their story. This is my forum. So many times I've been shut down, trying to speak with a rational mind, rational words, in a level, voice level, only to be told, I can't say that, shut up, don't do it, it means nothing, this is who you really are, this is who you'll always be. Yelling over it, drowning me out. And When this happens enough times and you realize that the only freedom that you have is that which is within you, you learn how to fortify that. And everyone has their own way of fortifying it. It's about mere survival. If you're exposed to that environment day in and day out, it has profound psychological effects, arguably damaging, negative, destructive. You need to detach from that. Part of dealing with negative behavior and keeping yourself sane is simply removing yourself from a toxic environment. Now, what is a toxic environment? It could be very comfortable to maintain a cycle in a toxic environment. It could be very familiar, very comfortable. But it doesn't mean it's healthy. It doesn't mean it's going to keep you sane. So you have to make the decision to remove yourself from the orbit of that. Regardless of what the consequences are or what's going to happen, you must remove yourself from that, first and foremost, so that you can start to receive the perspective of what's really happening from people who are rational and love you unconditionally, who are willing to listen and ask questions and inquire with curiosity and a loving heart. You must start there, no matter how much fear it induces to remove yourself from it. If I can remove myself from a situation that is toxic and end up in Mexico and find myself being exposed to it again in a foreign country, in a situation where I can believe in someone one day, they tell me that they're here for me, and they ghost and are gone. If I can deal with all of these things, you can as well. It starts by putting yourself in an environment where you can start to open your heart again with people who you trust, with the expectation it will continue that way, but with the possibility it may not, and knowing how to handle both of those things. Remember, when it's not working, we work on this transmutation of the energy. The negative feeling, the negative thoughts, that's not part of our highest good, our most aligned self. And I've gone into that quite a bit tonight, so you've probably felt a shift in energy, that this isn't the normal William. It's because I want to show you the profound effects that occur when this type of rumination is present and what we can do with it to change it into something that is totally transformative and serving oneself. We're going to begin right now. Let's start by taking a deep inhale. Inhale through the nose. Sip in a little more air. Hold it. Let it out the nose. Start to bring the oxygen into the bloodstream, and we're saturating the body. It causes this light switch within the nervous system to let us know that we're going into a state of relaxation. Let's do another one. Let's take an inhale through the nose. Hold it. And exhale. Now just breathe normally. Let's come to terms with what we've discussed tonight. These are thoughts and feelings. These thoughts that I have lead to feelings, ones that are familiar, bringing me to the comfort zone that is not necessarily healthy. So what do? See this beach in front of you? This beautiful place? You see that star? Everything that you need here is available for you to change through an alchemic process. You're going to imagine this star shape, white light, arriving above your head. It's going to enter in through the crown of your head and drop down through your third eye, through your throat chakra to your heart center and rest there. It's going to turn into a globe of white light. This white light is going to change to green tonight for a quick moment, and then it's going to change to pink. Between green and pink, it is oscillating back and forth in order to bring us healing and a sense of worth. And we're going to take this and say, I am that. I am. I am that healing. I am that success. I am that good parent. I am that affirmation. Say it in the present tense. Make it real. I am. And as we inhale again, that light brightens and oscillates and widens and expands outside of ourself, outside of our world, outside of the planet, outside of the solar system, outside until it illuminates the entire universe. This green light, purple, pink light, oscillating, pulsing, reminding us of the origin of who we are as the light fades. And now I want you to imagine being exactly where you would be most happy. And for me, it's right here. I see myself in the British Virgin Islands, in my little place where I've stayed before, walking down the sandy road with a beach towel and a chair and a pina colada, setting up shop, diving into the warm bath water that is the Caribbean Sea, taking care of myself and not feeling guilty for a single moment, because I deserve this, as do those who I love who are with me in this place. They know who they are. I've promised this to them, and I've brought them here on my own accord, on my own dime, through my own service to the community. And I am at peace. And that's enough for me for right now. So remember, the meditative process is one you can do at any time. And what you choose to delegate your attention towards is what behavior will continue and repeat. Should you choose to reinforce negative behavior, it will continue. Remember that giving attention to something in thought and feeling will reinforce it. It is a simple practice. But often at times, when emotions are high, it is a challenge to deal with. I hope that this has been informative for you. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions about the technique, please do leave a comment below, and I will be sure to respond to it as best as I can. I've been a behaviorist for over 15 years, a milieu treatment supervisor, a senior behaviorist, a supervisor of other behaviorists, a specialist with functional behavioral assessments, FBAs, and writing behavior plans. It's not a normal thing to understand how to replace this negative behavior. It requires practice, like all things we talk about. Have a beautiful evening tonight. Take care of yourself. Get some rest. Drink plenty of liquids. And remember, be mindful of your words as best as you can. And bring only attention and light to that which you would like to see repeated, again, for your own health and stability, because that will bring health and stability to those who you love in your general vicinity. Have a wonderful evening. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed and you liked what you saw tonight, go ahead and click it. It will support this channel and make it grow even bigger than it is right now, which you can imagine is very, very large. Just kidding. We're just starting here. So subscribe. Be a part of this project. It'd be great to have you here more frequently. Have a wonderful night.